Hello everybody and welcome to our webinar for large conferencing applications. I'm happy to see so many of you join, and I'm happy that we've seen so much attendance with our May and June webinar series. Today a webinar that we're going to be hosting jointly with MVI Audiovisual, and if you have any questions, put them in the chat window. I'll get back to that a little bit later as well. As I mentioned, we're not just hosting this webinar at Evonik. We have a guest today, Michiel van Inge from MVI Audiovisual. Michiel, welcome.
Hi, yeah, thank you.
Thank you for joining. Michiel, you are the managing director of MVI Audiovisual. You're a Dutch company, just like us. We're not even that far away from each other, I believe.
It's about 1.5 hours drive.
1.5 hours, yeah. And MVI Audiovisual specialized in conferencing automation, and you're going to be giving us a little bit of insights about what your solutions are and which applications we can provide you with those solutions. So I'll get back to you in just a few minutes, and then we're looking forward to your presentation.
Okay, well, to you, Stephen.
Okay. Just some housekeeping for today. We're using the Demio platform for our webinar today, which means that you can use the chat window on the right side of your screen. Please feel free to put your questions in there, and we have a team ready, and we have people from MVI Audiovisual and from Evonik monitoring the chat window, so we'll answer those questions as well. Next to that, we're also going to be following up with everybody that is attending today, and we will be summarizing all the questions as well. Before we get started, a little bit about Evonik. If you're not familiar with us, we're a company founded 13 years ago. We originally come from the AV distribution, so we have a lot of experience with distribution of AV products. And about 5 years ago, we focused fully on our new camera line, which ultimately became Evonik. We're in charge of product design, manufacturing, warehousing, sales, and support. And our focus, which is a bit different from some other manufacturers, is really on the pro AV installation side. So we really focus on products that are very much integratable, that blend into their environment, and are very flexible in terms of outputs and connectivity. Right now we have distribution in over 30 countries on every continent, and we're still gaining distribution in many countries worldwide. So that's about Evonik. Today we're going to be talking about large conferencing applications. So first of all, we're of course going to talk about what are those applications, where can you find those applications. Then we're going to be looking at the way we've traditionally done these type of installations, and they range from small to big installations. There's a new way of doing these things, the IP way, and of course around AV over IP there's a lot of information, a lot of marketing, a lot of technical details that a lot of companies are sharing, and we want to explain to you like how we think standard interoperable codecs actually have their place inside of these markets. Then we're also going to be looking at Evonik and our offering for conferencing, and of course we are a part of the solution. That's also the reason why MVI is joining us today. They will be talking, or Michiel is going to be talking about the IP conferencing setup. So how does the diagram look? What kind of things do you need to know before you start setting up an IP system? He's going to talk about control options, and in that control option part he's also going to talk, and I've got a little preview earlier about the SkyHoy controllers, which is of course also one of our technology partners, and a major topic for companies such as MVI today is of course remote participation for councils and government. Then I'm going to come back to you with some takeaway points, so a short summary of today's webinar, and also we're going to be looking in our other webinars for June. We have another one coming up as well. So large conferencing applications. Of course there's many of those. I think the most important thing to remember is that these are not only large conferencing applications. There's also smaller boardroom type installations where the system can be very interesting to use, especially because you can automate the full camera system. The applications range from government, think about your local government, their main meeting rooms, but also their additional meeting rooms, municipalities or city councils, typically a little bit smaller, but there's also in most countries the provincial level, and also in that province level there is a lot of these meeting rooms. Of course, the large conferences that we know that are like the EU presidency, for instance, or the environmental conferences that have been just held, I believe, in Spain. Of course, the annual general meeting, basically the meetings where all the shareholders of a large multinational or a company would gather to vote on a wide range of topics. But also from the compliance recording side, there's a lot of applications for conferencing. Courtrooms is one application. It's not so much that they want to stream that live over the public internet. No, it's more for documenting the whole proceedings, and therefore camera observation has always been a big part of these installations. Worldwide, we're seeing this gain a lot of momentum as well, so definitely this is a growing part of the market. And what I mentioned before, we also have the corporate side of the business, where there's the meeting rooms, we've got the corporate boardrooms, but also there's large organizations that are semi-government that have the need to actually register all their proceedings for future archiving purposes. So a lot of different applications in a lot of different parts of the market, actually. This might seem familiar. I'm going to step out of the picture a little bit here because this is the typical conferencing setup. Of course, there's cameras in the room. There could be an additional source, such as a laptop. There's a delegate system, so a conferencing system. This could be anywhere from vendors like Bosch or Shure or Televic or other vendors. And these systems are typically connected to a CCU, a central control unit. Some vendors have different ways of actually kind of explaining this. And typically in these situations, you would connect all these video sources to a big seamless matrix switcher. The CCU is connected to the seamless matrix switcher actually through the control system, of course. And there's some manual control, there's a separate streamer, and there's separate infrastructure bringing everything to like the monitors in the hallway. This is a pretty normal, typical setup. It has a lot of elements, and this is how these installations have been done for many years. Of course, there's two parts where this could be simplified next to the infrastructure. The infrastructure can be simplified by simply moving everything to IP, where here you have a hybrid between HDMI, maybe 3G SDI, RS-232, 485, and different types of connectivity in the whole system, where you would be running into issues like cable length, and you need to use extenders and all those kind of things. There is a way around this, and there is a way to simplify and make this more cost effective. Of course, there's the word IP again, and yes, this is more cost effective, simply because you're basically replacing the whole center part of this infrastructure with an off-the-shelf IP switch. Very standardized 1 gig switch can basically manage the entire system here. And that's also why today we have invited Michiel to join us, because they have a very nice solution that incorporates all this IP functionality. Before we go over to Michiel van Ingen van MVI and his presentation, I just wanted to remind you about our products that fit into the conferencing market. Our CM60 series, which we've just launched at the beginning of this year, is the primary solution for this market. Seeing a big window in my screen. So, okay, that's better. So this is the primary candidate for this market for us. 12, 20, and 30 times zoom with different viewing angles, and of course 3G SDI, HDMI, and IP all concurrent. So if you want to make the jump to IP, then we've got you covered. If you want to stick with SDI or HDMI, then we've got you covered as well. The design is very discreet in a way that it's very much able to blend into the environment. There's a couple of pictures in this presentation where actually somebody selected a black camera with white tables, but basically you can order them in white and they blend in a lot better, but they blend into any environment very well. We have low latency IP streaming on H.264 and H.265, which are the interoperable open codecs, and Michiel is going to be talking about that as well. We have things like an optimized RTSP mode, PoE, the default PoE, so any off-the-shelf PoE switch is capable of controlling our cameras. The only thing you need to be aware of is that certain switches have limitations in the total amount of power they can actually power devices with. So make sure that you understand those specifications. We are ONVIF compliant directly with Bosch Dicentis and their CCS 1000D. This is a camera control system that Bosch delivers themselves. MVI is a solution that could be on top of that or is an alternative for that. We have a high-speed pan tilt mode, which is important when you transition from preset to preset. The sooner the camera is at the next location, the sooner the system is able to switch. So that is in the CM70 series as well. And we have improved low light performance and multiple control options, including serial, but also IP. The other thing to remember is 3 years of warranty that we provide from Evonik, and of course you can always contact our support team if you have any issues. From a mount perspective, we have, again, because we want the camera to be able to blend into the environment, we have the MT200 in white and black, and for more rental type, or maybe if you have a truss or something that you need to mount to, we also have the ability to actually add a truss clamp to the mount itself. So that's very briefly why today we are talking about these applications and why we have invited Michiel van Ingen from MVI, and I'm going to switch over to Michiel. Michiel, I hope I was able to give a little bit of an introduction about the market, the applications that both of our companies are seeing. And I want to hand it over to you for your part of the presentation for today's webinar.
Okay, sure, no problem, and thank you, Stephen. Hello. My name is Michiel van Ingen, call me Michael if that's more easy for you. CEO MVI Audiovisual. In the past we were called MVI Engineering. Should that ring any bells? We've been on the market for at least 10 years. That's basically now on this promotional mug I received from my colleagues. I've worked for Bosch, designing conference systems, working with their software, and eventually found a reason to start my own company to actually improve on that. To basically build experience in the last 10 years and with everything that's related to conference systems, in addition, camera control and camera streaming. One of the things that's special about this setup that we have here is right now I'm looking into an Evonik CM40 camera, which is basically being controlled by our software. So our software is currently hosting a virtual camera that's being used to present this to you. I'm sitting behind what is called a conference system device. So this is basically a conference unit. Currently this is the most luxurious one, but that's basically the business we're in. We're in the business of conference systems and conference units. So a more simple device you can find here. This one is from Televic, and also Televic of course has more advanced units than this. So there's a whole legion of conference systems out there. Even the Bosch brand has 4 different types. And we are sort of experts in that. So what we've done in the last 10 years is we've built up experience in designing conference system software. So we're a software only company. So we deliver software solutions and you do the hardware. And within those 10 years, we met the requirements of camera controlling, of camera ingestion, of presenting names and overlays and all of that. So that's one of the things that I will present you. Within that period of time, we've met Evonik. So that's how I met Stephen. Because we used to do, and we're still doing SDI. So everything that's camera control and HD SDI based is part of our solutions. But we were at a transition point towards IP, and we already noticed that we can very efficiently handle IP streams from cameras. One of the best cameras out there, we found out, is Evonik, and at that moment in time it was the CM60 and the CM40 IP. And we quickly found out that the IP feed from that camera was actually nearly perfect. It was in line with HD SDI, which opened for us a complete new opportunity to actually allow for a much more flexible way of designing the system than using HD SDI. So they're both technologies with similar properties, but IP is a much nicer system to move forward to. So we have actually invested in adding into our IP solutions and building nice solutions for that. Thank you, Stephen, for inviting me into this meeting. You can always, of course, contact me if you have further questions afterwards. So let's move on to the presentation. So this is maybe a nice hooking point into Steven's presentation. So again, you have this we have this slide which demonstrates on the left top the cameras that are all IP connected into one big happy 1 gigabit switch. It can be any switch. It can be a very simple one even. Power over Ethernet at least, so that you only require one cable to your cameras. You will see an IP controller, and that's actually the ScarHoy controller. I will get into that.
I noticed this was a bit different from the one was on my slide.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, the reason for that is that we have specifically designed the firmware of the ScarHoy controller. That makes the ScarHoy controller a very nice, a nice joystick, because we do our own control. We can do displaying on that device. We can control the highlight buttons. We receive a lot more feedback. So this camera has been our preference, and we're now promoting that. But yeah, I'll come back to that in one of our last slides.
ScarHoy is one of the things that we actually suggested as a possible solution, because while our controller is originally been developed mainly to just work with our cameras and never kind of intended to be like a bi-directional device, I think the ScarHoy solution is a lot more flexible that way. So it's also a solution that when our CON300 IP doesn't fit with specific clients that we have, we would also just simply select or suggest ScarHoy as the potential solution. So it's a very logical and good move, I think, on your side.
Okay, well, thank you. Yeah, so we'll come back to that. So back to this picture. Yeah, so you can see a conference system on the left side. You can see a PC presentation directly connected through IP. The controller is connected to IP. Everything in this setup is controlled by IP. And you can see the workstation or PC or laptop. That's basically what you can decide for yourself which one you want to use, as long as it has the modern NVIDIA hardware, preferably Quadro architecture. You can do a lot of nice stuff with our software, up to 24 cameras streaming at the same time, multi-viewing, all of that. So maybe that's yeah. And the result is, of course, a display output, which you can see in the right bottom, which is a mix of your camera. It has been zoomed in to the speaker. You can see actually the name, the title, the logo. It can contain a lot of information about the speaker itself, and that's all of that information that's being presented is directly coming out of the conference system, because the conference system knows who is sitting where, so it tells us the information. So in this specific example, let me see, this Mr. Andre, we're being told exactly the name, and we just print it on screen as soon as we have this person live on screen. And all of that is being done in software. So the camera control, the camera ingestion, the name generation, and the displaying, everything is done by one PC. Yeah, so to move on to the next slide, there's a misconception out there that the default H.264 and H.265 is a slow decoding mechanism that is not meant for real time. And we disagree. We entirely disagree with that. That's why we specifically made this slide, and we specifically made this measurement. And I don't know in this presentation how clearly you can see these numbers. But in the picture on the right side is basically a phone. The phone is a timer, and this is a CM40 camera that we've pointed directly onto a screen that's basically showing that. So we're showing an echo of an echo of an echo of an echo, and there is around 100 milliseconds between each capture. So that's the loop back time from camera through the PC to the display and back again. That's basically what you're seeing, and that's 100 milliseconds. So if we would have done the exact measurement with SDI using Blackmagic Design capture card, it would have given the same result. There are alternative methods out there like NDI or maybe even the uncompressed format. The nice thing about the solution that we offer, and of course the solution that Evonik offers in their cameras, is everything is standardized. So H.264 is a standard, H.265 is a standard, and they're also standardized inside PCs. The PCs, especially NVIDIA hardware, have hardware accelerated encoders and decoders, which means that we can do everything without using and consuming CPU. So we can handle 24,080 P60 camera feeds at the same time on the same PC, in a multi-viewing, whatever. We can be very flexible because of this. And all of that through a simple 1 gigabit network. So you don't need 10 gigabits, you don't need to separate that from other networks or anything like that. As long as you know for sure that the camera, that your network is not overloaded by other content, you will be perfectly fine using this in a live scenario. So we actually promote this. We see it work, we see it in operation. The video is smooth, the video is extremely low latency, and for us this is the future way to go. And the next step would be 4K. Evonik will be also providing 4K 60 solutions in the very near future. We are even already prepared for that and can handle 8 of those at the same time in multi-viewing, whatever you like. So try to do that with any kind of other solutions out there currently for an affordable price.
Michiel, one question. You said about the 24 cameras that you can process based on the IP input. If you take 24, 12 or 10, doesn't really matter how many cameras, and you compare that to having to buy a input card for all of these devices, how does that compare on pricing?
A lot, because once you start to use SDI in our solutions, you will need Blackmagic Design capture cards. So Blackmagic Design has capture cards up to 8 cameras. So as long for simple systems, that's not a big problem. Then you only need a quad 2 card, and that's sufficient. But if you go over that and you want to have more than 8, you need an additional card, which will cost you another maybe 700-800 euros extra. And your PC might even run into problems because it cannot handle it anymore. It cannot handle all of the raw video that is required for this. And that's a nice thing about using this encoded video, because the encoded video is directly sent to the capture card, so to the graphics card. And the graphics card will only process it internally. So the whole system, use of system resources like network, but also PCI Express bandwidth, whatever happens inside the PC, everything is being done internally in the graphics card. So the CPU consumption is low, your system usage is low, and for us it's even more scalable because we can quickly add more cameras into the system. So currently we only see benefits. Maybe only the perfectionists that start to look at HDI compared to right next to a decoded H.264, H.265 stream. Of course, SDI will always win, but that's only if you really start looking into this. Otherwise, no, we're very happy with the current situation.
And it also there's two things. It also depends on what you're actually doing with the output signal. So if you're streaming 720p onto the internet, then you wouldn't even see that. So it's also where things are being used and what kind of output you have.
Yeah, that's the output. You're completely flexible in how you want to have your output. We do all of the ingestion, so we combine everything into one or multiple feeds. So that can be your live feed, which can be a split screen, or can have 4 persons at the same time. But we have multiple output types. So you can have the clean feed, so you don't have arctic generation. You can have a version of it with mosaic viewing. I will come back to that later when we talk about remote participation. You can have a specialized video output for your camera control, so you can see all of your cameras at the same time and actually control that through directly through our control or through Scarhoy. So the input is very flexible and the output is very flexible, and everything can be set up basically by the integrator and by the customer.
Yeah, plus the nice thing about the Evonik cameras is you can set them up to do even 40 megabits of data. So if you have a system with not as much cameras, so not 24 cameras, but less, you can actually go up in bitrate as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the 24 example is of course very extreme. We never sold a system with 24. It's just that the capabilities that our solution has, that at least you get the flexibility. But no, most of our software is being used in municipalities, I think it's called in English, so city halls, town halls. Yeah, what's the amount of cameras in there? I think about average 4 to 6 cameras. That's about it. So it's still a simple system with less cameras, but at least it's prepared for the future. Yeah. So shall we more questions, or shall we?
No.
Let's
I'm
move
just
to
every time while you're talking,
yeah.
I'm just gonna. If I have any questions, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Let's go
Okay.
ahead.
Great. Thanks. Um, yeah. So just to give you a few screenshots of what we can do and how we do things. Well, the left top screenshot basically indicates a multi-speaker view, so we can basically see how many people in the conference system are being enabled. So currently there's only one microphone enabled on this unit. But if there would be an additional microphone enabled, we can handle multiple cameras at the same time, take the best shot, and basically automatically target the second person and then take the second person. And in this screenshot, it's even 3 persons. So we can do this up to 4 speakers at the same time. Of course, if you want to do this in like a meeting environment, in a meeting room environment, yeah, then you need, of course, to have enough cameras in your hall to actually being able to give you a good shot. Otherwise, you get side shots or maybe even from behind. That's of course completely not wanted. So the technology is there. We can show multiple persons at the same time, so you can follow a conversation, and that's really nice. That's really appreciated about our solutions, because if you follow a conversation, you want to see both persons, and otherwise you're just seeing the emotions of one person. So that's already nice. The left bottom is an example of a single speaker with full name displaying, with full logo displaying. So we can show you the logo of the political party, the name of the political party, the name of the person, the title of the person, all of these kind of details that are stored in the conference system. We can show that live on screen so that everybody can see the name of the person, the title of the person, including, of course, people watching at home. Because in the city council business, that's what we basically do it for. It's used for live viewing, but it's mostly meant for actually people watching the meeting at home, seeing what happens in the city council. So they should be informed what kind of, who is representing what and who is representing which political party. And we do that by basically showing the logo. And this is flexible. You can decide what you want to show. A couple of other things we do as well. It's not entirely camera related, but on the right top you can see the voting results. So this is all kind of information that comes from conference systems. We can show that live on screen, maybe on additional displays. This is an example of a very big meeting in Lucerne in Switzerland, where they just cast a vote, and they've got 11 seconds to go. So you can control, everything is basically being controlled from our software. So we know about the voting results, we start and stop the voting results, we collect the voting results, we print the voting results on the live display. We can even mix and merge that with the live video feed. So the live video feed you're watching now, we can actually key information on top of that, whatever you want. So our software is flexible, you can configure it, you can customize the user interface, you can customize hall displaying, to give it at least the look and feel of your customer. So a couple of points I wanted to make on this slide. They're on the left. So you only require 1 UTP cable per camera if you do an installation with just IP. So you can meet building regulations, because sometimes you're only allowed even to pull UTP cables and nothing else. We're doing low latency, so we're usually faster than NDI on PC platforms. We run on standard on 1 gigabit networks. We can seamlessly switch between all sources. It doesn't matter if it's IP or SDI, 4K, 1080p, 720p, everything can be mixed. So it's not necessary that everything is IP. You can have part IP, part SDI. There's a choice you can make. The same for cameras, so we can control lots of brands of cameras. So in the scenario of Evonik, we know the CM40, the CM60, the CM73, and hopefully, of course, all the new cameras that will come. Character generation done in HD, done on the PC, which means that we can support all kinds of fonts. So that's very nice to know that if you have strange characters, maybe, well, not really strange for your language, but if you have any kind of in French, for instance, the C with the thing at the bottom, if you have standard ASCII printing, that will not work. So we can support your font set, so Chinese, Russian, whatever. We can print that. We can do lots of keying, like explained. We do speech times. It's meant to be very flexible, but more important even, next to the flexibility, everything is automated. So I give you a lot of information, but everything normally in a meeting, the only thing people need to do is they need to press buttons. They just start a vote, they stop a vote, and everything will happen in the background automatically. So basically, that's what we do.
Yeah, oh, well, this one's familiar.
So again, this looks familiar. So what we show. So first, to concentrate on the screenshots. So here you can see the SCAR controller, but maybe you can already see something unique because you can see our logo on the display, and that's because we actually programmed this SCAR using their SDK. Which allows us to actually directly control and receive information from the joystick. So everything. So any kind of movement that you make, any kind of zoom that you make, any kind of button that you press, we can detect that and we can act on it. And very nice, the other way around. So if there is an active speaker in the system, we can show you which camera it is. So in this example, at the bottom you can see all of so how many buttons? 8 buttons. So representing 8 cameras. So camera number 2 is currently active. So that one is currently. So that means that if you are selecting that camera and you start to move the camera, that means that people can actually see the camera movements. So this kind of feedback you can already use to select another camera which is not live on screen, because you can see which camera is live on screen, and then move the camera and, for instance, use that as a new shot. So the nice thing about using this joystick, it allows you to program the default preposition into our software. So we do all of the preposition management in our software. But if you want to manually take over, you can fully take over the control of the entire camera control, and you get feedback on speaker information. So the displays give you information on the speaker name, which camera is in use, etc., etc. So very professional and looks very nice. It perfectly matches everything automatic that happens in our software. However, you can also take it over in a manual way while looking at our preview screen. So talking again about the 24 cameras, if you want, you can set up a preview of 24 cameras and you can perfectly see which camera is active, and you can see the preview screen. So any button you press on the joystick will trigger the preview. You can move around and you can actually press the middle button of the joystick and take it when it becomes live. Actually very nice solution. So we're very happy with this controller. So we've just supported it. So it's implemented, I think, in around beginning of February. No, ending of February. It was just after ISE. We just didn't have enough time to demonstrate it. And last but not least,
probably the most the functionality that you're getting the most calls for every day. I assume.
Currently, yes. Although it has not, in theory, it has nothing to do with camera control. So this is what we're now showing you is our remote participation solution. And what do we define as remote participation? Is we look at it from a conference system point of view. So I've just given you an explanation on how our software works. I've just given you an explanation on what we can do. Basically, we integrate a remote participant directly into meetings. So like you're physically there. So your home client, so your laptop that you're using or your tablet that you're using, if you're part of the meeting, basically you are part of the conference system. So you can participate and vote. You can press your microphone. Maybe you get microphone rights, but if the chairman doesn't want to have people automatic in screen, you will be put in a request list. So the chairman can just control you like they can control the conference system, because it's the same software, it's the same list, it's the same speech times. Once you get your microphone enabled, basically your laptop will act as a virtual camera preposition. So your camera will just become part of the meeting. In this example, on the left bottom, you can see currently two persons at home speaking at the same time. So we will show you two speakers at the same time. However, if you want, and you can see that a little bit in a smaller way, so on the picture on the right, you can decide to have the same PC output 2 different feeds. And one feed is the thing you can show to the people at home, so that the people at home, for instance, are just looking at the persons that are actively speaking. But on the right bottom, you can see a mosaic view. And this mosaic view is everybody that's part of the meeting. So you can see who is sitting where. You can see that people are actually part of the meeting and haven't left, so they didn't walk away or anything. So you can keep on seeing them. You can look them in the eye if you want to. And this can, for instance, be put in the hall on an additional screen, so that people in the hall, the chairman or maybe the clerk, that they can actually see everyone that's even not speaking, and they can raise their hand or they can give some other kind of signal to say, hey, I need attention, or of course they can press the microphone button, which means that they will be put in a request list if the system has been set up to allow people to be put on a request list. Otherwise they can directly speak and they're live into the feed. So what makes this solution unique is the simplicity. So the only thing you need is a decent internet connection. You need our software. Once the software is installed, you can send an invitation through our software directly to the people that are invited. So only the invited people will receive this invitation. They can join into the meeting, but if required, they can be kicked out. So lots of news is related to people misusing these kind of meetings. They're not allowed to enter, or maybe there's lots of noise in the background, or they're misbehaving. We allow also not only to accept people, but also to kick them out of the meeting if that's required. And that's basically it. At the left bottom for the solution, you can see how the user interface looks like. It's customizable, so you can change the look and feel of this. So you can again give it the look and feel of your customer. But we've tried to keep this as simple as possible. And of course, you can vote. So you can use this for electronic voting as well, and it will be mixed with your conference system. So it can do a lot of things, but we've tried to keep it as simple as possible.
Okay, thank you, Michiel. One question I was having, like the streaming part of it, right? What kind of signal do you deliver to the streaming provider that the customer has?
Basically, we generate our own H.264 feed. We generate our own audio, and we send that to a cloud hosting. And the cloud hosting is something that either we can take care of, but it is part of our products. So the cloud hosting you can do yourself if you want. So what does it mean, cloud hosting? That's basically responsible to send all this video to all of the listeners. So if you only have 2 or 3 people remotely participating, you don't need really cloud hosting for this. This can maybe even be arranged by your current internet connection. But if you have 100 participants and you're sending a 1 megabit feed, that means that you need 100 megabits to send to all listeners, and that's not something you usually can do from your simple local government installation. So then you need something that is cloud hosted, and that can actually redistribute everything to all of the listeners in the meeting. So for us, it doesn't matter if it's 2 or 100. Our software can handle it, and it's up to the integrator to make the calculations if it can be done either locally or you go to a hosting provider, a cloud hosting provider, and do it from there. Yeah. Okay, I think it's been like for the two of us or for our companies, it's very much a proven way of doing things, right? Everything over IP. I do think there's a lot of people that are probably listening in today or joining in today that are like, well, is this already running, and are there reference cases? Yes, there are reference cases, and some reference cases are actually pretty big. There's a couple of pictures of them in this presentation. Michiel, we are very much a fan of open standards, so interoperability, H.264, H.265. For us, that really makes a lot of sense, and that's also where the link is, of course, and that's why we do a lot about making our cameras quicker and easier on IP, but also on all the other standards. So, Michiel, I wanted to thank you for now. Very much appreciate your time and the presentation for today's webinar, and I hope we've been able to clarify like the move from SDI to IP. Although SDI is still available and still being installed, IP is where everything will be going in the next couple of years, and there's already installations going on, quite a few actually, that we are aware of. So thank you for today. Okay.
Michiel van Inge, the CEO of MVI Audio Visual. Of course, if you have any questions for Michiel, put them in the chat window. I'm sure one of his colleagues is joining the chat window as well. And otherwise, we'll get back to those questions later on or in the follow-up. A couple of things I wanted to summarize for you. regarding large conferencing applications. So first of all, low latency on IP without proprietary codecs is possible, and you're probably seeing a little bit of a repeat in some of the messages we are sharing with you during our webinar series, both in May and now in June. It is a theme for us, so make sure that you understand that the proprietary codecs, they have their benefits, but they also have their downside. The upside for non-proprietary codecs is just a general interoperability with a lot of different vendors, and MVI Audiovisual is fully compliant with our camera IP output and also the SDI output as well. One thing I wanted to point out is that although this webinar has as a topic larger conferencing installations, it's not per se only suitable for large conferencing installations. You can also do the smaller installations which simply need automated camera control, and they're very easy to integrate. So also for smaller corporate boardrooms, all those type of applications, the combination between Evonik and MVI is very suitable. H.264 and H.265 are interoperable and they have low latency. Again, that's something to remember. And the IP, moving to IP from SDI saves costs. It simplifies the infrastructure. It allows you to just put in longer cables instead of putting in extender kits or anything like that. So it's easier to install, and also as a benefit, it allows you to simply power the cameras over PoE, which is in our case standard PoE, so any off-the-shelf switch would work. The solution that we've shared today can be operated on 1 gig networks, which is a big difference from a lot of AV over IP solutions. You can connect, in case of MVI Audiovisual, up to 24 cameras in daily practice. We'll probably see 4 to 6 cameras per installation, but it does prove the point of it being a little bit more flexible. We at Evonik, we've worked together with Bosch directly, as well for the integration inside of their camera control solution, which is, compared to the MVI Audiovisual solution, a little bit more basic, but definitely does the trick as well. MVI adds a lot of additional functionality, but we are compatible with the Dicentis and the CCS 1000. The solution we provided today is compatible with basically every conference vendor out there, so Bosch, Televic, every brand could potentially be connected to this system. And MVI, we've proven interoperability with them on both the CM40, which is the SDI camera. Then we also have the CM40 IP camera and the CM70 models, which, as you're probably aware of now, are 12, 20, and 30 times zoom in exactly the same housing. And as Michiel mentioned, we're also working on a 4K camera, which we are expecting to launch in the near future. If the information went too fast, we're going to be sharing with you a recording of this webinar, which will be made available to all of you. Our product videos and other webinars that we've done in May and June are also available via our YouTube channel. And if you need any information about MVI Audiovisual or about Evonik solutions, please connect with us and we can provide you the information. There's more webinars to come, and for now I just wanted to thank you for your attendance.